Okay, I explained this a little bit on the last video, but here we go. Here is the banner, and now I'm going to take the border. I don't have anything on the back. It's nice if these are starched, but it's not the end of the world. I will draw a line here to show you. This is the end of the quilting. All right, so that's the end of the quilting. So I'm going to just take this and I'm going to center it. I've got about a half of an inch left there. About an inch on each side. Okay, so I'm going to put that there. You don't have to, but you can use the side of your foot, which is roughly a quarter of an inch. But I'm going to use a 1/4 inch foot, and I'm going to stitch this down with a 1/4 inch foot. Okay, then I'm going to iron this back. I'm going to do the same thing with this side. I'm going to iron that back. And sometimes I put a little 505 underneath that to really hold it down. Then I'm going to put this down. I'm going to do the bottom, and I'm going to do the top. Whoops. So fit right side down and then flip that up. Okay, so that's going to be putting the borders on. And then we'll come back here and I'll show you what the next step is. Okay, I decided I was going to show you a little bit. So this is my 1/4 inch foot. I have this on that line that I drew. So this is my 6 inches that's in the middle. So it's at the edge of the quilting. It's right sides together. And I'm stitching down the right hand border. Okay, I don't need to pin it if I'm using a 1/4 inch foot. Come down about a half of an inch. Okay, I'll turn this around and I'm gonna, just because these are the same length, I'm gonna line this one up. Now I'm gonna do the other border, the other side, which will be the left hand side. Okay, I'm gonna go over and I'm going to iron these out. And this is something I just noticed when I teach this. Really iron them well, okay? And put a little 505 underneath there. Because what you don't want is to creep up and then everything isn't perfect. So iron those really well, and then we're going to put on the top and bottom borders. Okay, I've ironed those two side borders. Now we're going to do the top and bottom. So I'm going to put this here. There we go. And again, that is lining up right with that line. I use these washable blue pins. Any pin that you use, I will just spray this with water when I finish. You can use any of your favorite markers, but I like the washable white blue pins. See, it stretches a little bit. This is why really you should start your fabric. It just makes it easier. There's the other side. Get my last border. So this is the bottom. Again, I'm going to line this up with the line that I drew at the bottom of the quilting. Okay. I'm going to go over and iron those two back too. Okay? Okay, so I've ironed everything back and I put a little 505 under it to hold it really tight. Okay? Now, if you will notice, you probably won't. This is not, even though we've cut everything 3 inches, it's not perfect. So this is why I like to do a basting stitch. I like to measure 2.5 inches all the way around and then hit it with a basting stitch. In fact, let's see if I can zoom in. I can show you. You can see here it's a little bit, this is narrower than this. So if we put this here, I can draw a line again with my blue pen. Okay, I'm drawing a line 2.5 inches from this line. It's great when you have a 2.5 inch ruler. Now this is your bottom border. This way, when you turn your banner right side out at the end, you're gonna have nice, it'll be nice lined up edges. It won't be thick in one area, thin in another area. Nice even borders. Okay. Now, I think you can kind of see that line. It's hard. So I've got this line 2.5 inches up from here. It's a little bit difficult to see. That's right up there. And I've got 2.5 inches all the way down here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go stitch on that line all the way around. First, two things that we'll do. We'll hold the borders down. And then when we sew the back on, it's going to give us a clean line to follow when we sew the backing on. Okay? Since it was difficult to see from far away, I'm going to show you that line that I'm following right now, and this is what I'm doing. Again, this line is 2.5 inches from the inside edge. Okay, that's good. We're going to go back to embroidery. Okay, so this is page 5 of the instructions. You can see we just did this step where we did a basting stitch all the way around. That's 2.5 inches from the middle. Now the second thing, what we're going to do is we're going to have 6 borders. So what you're going to do is you're going to draw a line, a horizontal center line. So you're going to measure the horizontal center between here and here and draw a line there. Then you're going to draw a midway point. So between this horizontal center and this, the end of the bottom of the border up at the top, you're going to draw another line. So that is equidistant between these two. And you're going to do the same thing at the bottom. Okay? So you'll have a midway point, and then a horizontal center. You still should have, like this, I still have my vertical center. So you should have that vertical center still there. If not, you can draw that in as well. Now I'll go through this and then I can explain it. We're going to pull up our borders, our border design. We have one border design that we're going to be using 6 times. We're going to do the top and bottom borders first, and I will show you how we line those up. After we finish doing those 2 borders, we're going to do the side borders. You'll do 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you have, instead of stars, you're going to have watermelons. So then that will be 6 borders in total. Okay, so let's go about and start that. All right, so I just created this. So this particular, I put a little scribble through this line because that was the lining up of the hooping 1 and hooping 2. You could also just erase it. You put a little water on there and get rid of it. This is my center line. Okay, this is the horizontal center. I know this is vertical, but this is the horizontal center. Then between, and that's about 9 inches up from the top and from the bottom. So then between this horizontal center and here, it's roughly 9 inches. So this midway point is 4.5 inches in from the bottom. And this midway point up here is 4.5 inches in. I can scooch this over a little bit. It's 4.5 inches in from here. So this is a midway point, midway point, midway point, and midway point. Then here's your vertical. And those are the points you're going to use when you line up your hoopings. Okay. I'm going to go bring up the design on the machine, and then I'm going to stitch out the placement line like I do with everything, and I'm going to show you how I line that up. Okay? Okay, this is the line that I just drew out. Okay. You will see that it's a bit close to this side of the hoop, and the reason is, ideally, you can use one piece of stabilizer and do 2 hoopings on there. So for all 6 hoopings, I can do it in 3 pieces of stabilizer. So I moved the design to the left, and that's what I'm going to stitch out right now. Also, what I suggest is you draw where the design is, and I just do that just because you're trying to figure out. I can't tell you how many times I've taught this, and people get all of a sudden they're doing the design in the middle of their white or their banner. So you have to look at that. That's where the design is. So we're going to do the top. This is where the design is. Okay. So the line is going to line up with this base of your border. All right. And here's your vertical center. Okay. So here we go. I put this in here. And that's going to go right down in there. Okay. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put a pin in there, and I'm going to look underneath, and I'm going to make sure that pin is right on that line. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. I put a pin in here, look right underneath, and I can put a pin right down, straight down into that line. Okay. Then when I stitch out the border, it's going to go up here because that's where you drew your little picture. This is where it's going to go. So this is exactly how I need to have it. Now, I've tried this with 505. I think 505 lets it move. So I always pin my borders. So pin my fabric. So I'm going to pin here. And I pin over here. That's help from my dog. That's Charlie. Okay, so we're going to pin this. And then I'm going to put a pin down here. There we go. So I'm going to go stitch out the design. I'm going to use green. I used white on my sample, but I'm going to use green just for something a little bit different, or lime green. So let's go over to the machine. All right. Okay. We're all ready. I know this is kind of upside down. Let's see if I can make that's a little bit better. It's still upside down, but it's a little bit straighter. And you're going to see how this stitches out. So. Now I just want to say all my patterns for the Bit of Color banners are like this. Depending on the banner, you may have a different way of line. You might have different lines to draw for your borders. The longer ones, you might need 8 hoopings, but this is how I do all of them. We also use borders on my Pea-Pod letter banners, like Happy Fall You All, and I just have a new one out, Love Quilting. And again, you do the borders the same exact way. The only difference is those have applique for the letters, and these letters were just all embroidery. I like the library. Now these borders, also on the other side, do not go all the way to the end. They fit in the areas that you put the midpoints in, and you probably have an inch, maybe 2 inches between the top 2 and the bottom 2. So you have a lot of wiggle room. Okay, let's take that over and take a peek. It's really hard to see, but it's still prettier in the lime green, I think. Let's see if I can zoom in at all. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe not really. There we go. So you can see the lime green on the red. And so that is what we've done for the top border. Now I'm going to let me go out. I'm going to take, and I'm going to use my scissors and take out my pins. And I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to just come underneath here. And I'm going to just cut through this no-show mesh. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to cut through this no-show mesh. There you go. I just have a hole here. Now sometimes, especially with the metallic hoops, or not metallic, with the magnetic hoops, you can put another piece of stabilizer there, and you can use that exact area again. But I'm going to just move my design over to here. It's going to be in the same position. So the line will be about here, and the design will be up here. And then we'll take the bottom, here's the bottom border, and we're going to line that up like that, and we'll do the same design. It will be upside down. That's what I want. We'll be doing the same design on the bottom of the border. Okay? Okay, you can kind of see it. This is my line for my bottom border. I want to just show you one other thing, or explain one other thing. The distance between your border and the edge of the border strip should be roughly 1/4 of an inch. This is a little bit less, this is a little bit more, so it's not perfect. But I'll tell you something, no one is going to notice it at all. So the idea is, so I should have switched that should have been turned just a tiny bit more, but no one will even notice. But 1/4 inch is roughly what you're going for. So I'm going to take this is the bottom, I've just flipped it around. Here's my vertical center. I'm going to put the pin in there, and I'm going to find the vertical center here. Okay? My little drawing is up here, so that's where my design is going to go, so that works. I'm going to put a pin in here, and I'm going to look underneath, and I want to make sure that pin is right on the line. And it is. So I've got 2 down. I'm going to put a pin in here, and I'm going to look underneath, and that is spot on. So let's put some more pins in to hold that in place. Here. Maybe I'll put a pin right in here. Okay, so we've got that one ready to go. I'm going to take that over and I'm going to stitch the border out again. Okay, we're back. This looks pretty good. It's about 1/4 of an inch all the way across. So this one is lined up a little bit better. Again, no one is going to see it. It does not have to be perfect. You've got a lot of wiggle room. So I'm going to cut this out, or I'm going to, yeah. Actually, I'm going to just pull this out of the hoop. And explain to you what we're going to do next. Let me go back out. Okay. So the next 4 hoopings are going to be made on the midpoints. So here are the 2 lower midpoints. You've got one here and one here. So this, you're going to use this as the line. You're going to do this as the middle. And you're going to make sure your design is here. You're going to then, for this, well, we'll do one side. Then we're going to move this up. Here's your midpoint. Here's your line, and your design is going to go up here. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the, or I'm going to hoop another piece of stabilizer. I'm going to bring the design over to the left, and we'll start with the top. We'll start with this one, which is exactly the same as what we've just done on the top and bottom. Okay? All right, I've done my stitch out. I know it's difficult to see. Okay, The design again is on the right. So now we're going to line up the first hooping for our borders. I mean our sides. So here's my thing. There's my midpoint. Okay. My design goes there. That's why I draw it in, so I can remember. Because otherwise sometimes you get turned around. Okay, so here's my midpoint. I'm going to put a pin in there, and that's going to go straight into the midpoint of the line that I've stitched. I know that it's difficult to see. Let's see. Can I zoom in and show you? There you go. It's right in the center of that. Okay, so I'm going to put that down. Go straight into my wool mat. Then I'm going to come up. I'm going to look underneath. I'm going to come up maybe 4 inches. And I look underneath and I can see the line. I'm going to put a pin in there. I come down about 4 inches. I look underneath. I'm smack dab on the line. I put a pin in there. Okay, so now I just, again, as before, I've got to put a couple extra pins in here to hold it in place. Make sure you don't get it in the path. Oops, I completely messed that one up. Okay. Let's get this, that goes back in there. That goes straight down. That goes straight down. And that goes. So those were fine. I just have to be a little bit more delicate when I pin these in. Why is this harder than the other ones? See, I've been doing this forever and it's still not hard, but you just have to be careful. Okay, I've got the 2 main pins in. Now I'll put one here. And if the other ones come out, that's not the end of the world. Okay, now I can pull these out. And let's go stitch out this. Okay, that looks great actually. Lining up was pretty good. So I'm going to cut this one out, move the design over. Okay. So I'm going to move the design over to here. So to the right a little bit. And then we're going to move this down and we're going to do the midpoint point, the midpoint of the right, the midpoint of the bottom of the right hand border. How's that for you? Okay, so that will be the second of the 4 side borders. Okay, let me go stitch that out. Okay, I moved it over. There's the line. There's the midpoint. I'll draw my little design over here so we know that's where the design goes. Always to the right, always to the right. I'm going to now lay this down. This is my midpoint for the bottom. So I'm going to put a pin in there. And I'm going to put a pin right in there. Go straight down into my wool mat. Come down about 4 inches. Look underneath. And I'm just a hair off. Now I'm straight. Go up about 4 inches. Okay. So I've got my three pins in there. And as before, I'm going to just have to be careful when I pin it so I don't disrupt those. At least can get the top and the bottom. Okay, I've got those. I'll put another one in here. Okay, I'll take those out. I'll put one in here for just good measure. Now we're going to take it over and we're going to stitch out the bottom half of the right hand border. Okay. All right. I know it's hard to see, but I can assure you we've done the bottom half. So now I'm going to repeat the same process on the left hand side. I will do the midpoint up at the top, and I will do the midpoint down at the bottom. When I do that, I'm going to be turning around my banner. I will show you that. So let me just take this out, hoop another piece, and then I'll get right back with you. Okay, so here's going to be the third hooping. Here's my line. Here's where I attach it to the machine. Okay. Again, this is where my design is going to be. It's always to the right. So we just did these two, and that was easy because they were to the right. With this second side, with the left-hand side, we have to turn the banner around so it's upside down because we want the design to be over here. And as long as we're here, we'll just do the bottom part first. Okay. Here is the midpoint. We're going to put a pin in the midpoint. I'm going to put it right there. Go straight down in. Okay. Come down about 4 inches. Look underneath. Gotta move it a tiny bit. There we go. Come up about 4 inches. That's perfect. All right, and again, we're going to pin it. These are all in. Yep. Get another pin up here. Get another pin here. Take these out. And I'll just put a pin here for good measure. You can use 505, but I just don't think it holds as well as pins. Tape does not hold as well as pins. So this is really the best way to do it. You could put a little 505 down so it could stick, and then you put your pins in so you don't have those 3 pins here that keep coming up. So work a little bit with it. But again, you can barely see the quilting unless you really look closely. So if it is off a tiny bit when you're just getting used to this method, no one is going to notice, I promise. Okay, I'm going to finish up this one and do the next border, and then I'll show you how to put the back on. Okay, all the borders are finished, and I've cut away most of the stabilizer. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the back on. Okay. With the instructions, you have a 12 by 16 inch piece, which you are going to fold in half. Okay. So that you have it's 12 by 8. And you're going to put that up right at the top. I come up a little bit further than the top of the border, just a little bit more. So you're going to put that there. Then you're going to do the same thing, but this bottom piece you're not going to fold, okay? you're going to just keep the width, the length. And again, this is much longer than it needs to be. And actually this is pretty long. I wonder if I could cut it, but so I can just put it right there. Okay. You ultimately want the overlap to be about 4 inches. So if I measured that, I'm going to just wing it. It's about 4 inches. Okay? So again, the fold goes down and the fold goes first. Then you have this. This is, both of these are right sides. You've got your banner right side up and you've got these right side down. Or certainly this piece. Then you're going to pin. I pin from the outside in so that the pin heads are on the outside. If you want, you can also just use clips. So I can go through here and just clip this. Maybe I'll do that. I'll put these away. We'll just do clips. Okay. Okay, sometimes I tell you to put a piece of tape here, and the reason for that is you are going to be stitching this from this side, and it just keeps that little bit from maybe folding and you having to unstitch it and put it back. So I'm going to just put a piece of tape here, and I'm going to put a piece of tape here. This is masking tape. It's the only thing I had within reach. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to turn this over. Now I'm going to zoom in and show you something. Okay. If you can see, I know there's lots of lines on here, but over here, this is that line that you drew, and that you stitched on. Here it is. I can take it. The one that's exactly 2.5 inches from the inside border. That's what you're going to be stitching. That's what you're going to use as your guide, actually. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch foot, and I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch on the inside of that, all the way around. So again, I'm going to put my 1/4 inch foot on. I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch in all the way around here. Okay? Okay, here I've set up my machine. I've got my 1/4 inch foot on, and I'm going to just start. I've got the green thread in. Well, you'll be able to see it better. Box of clips. I can pull these out. Okay. Let's go over to the other, to the table. All right, I'm going to cut all this off, all the extra. I basically can cut on that line that I originally drew. Here, I can cut on that line that I originally drew. Let me move my wool mat. I'm not great. Well, I like to use a ruler when I do this. Sorry. Whoops. There we go. All right. What I tend to do with the corners is I cut them like this, and then I take a little scallop out of it, each of them, each side. That way I can point so straight across and leave a little scallop. Okay, I'm going to turn it inside out, or right side up. Good. I didn't even have to mess with that. Take off my tape. Okay, you can reach in and pull. Let me go out a little bit. Reach in and pull the bottom. Okay, and then I use one of these from OESD, and I push out my corners. Be careful. If you get overzealous with that, you can go right through your corner because you cut it pretty close. So, okay. Turn this inside out, right side out. You do the same thing. Okay, looking good. So now I'm going to go over to my steam iron and really press it well. Really press it well. Then I'll put a couple clips in it, and I'm going to end up top stitching it, or really stitching the ditch all the way around here, which will hold the front to the back. Okay, so let me go press it and then put the clips on, and then I will show you me doing the stitch in the ditch. Okay, here it is. I've done all the pressing with a good steam iron. I'm going to hit it right now with a little bit of water. And as you can see, a lot of those blue marks just disappear. Sometimes some stay a little bit, like that one stays a little bit. So I have to hit it. I'll let this dry, and then I'll hit those areas again with the spray when I've finished. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to go to the machine, and I'm going to stitch in the ditch. I've got to change my thread to white, stitch in the ditch, and hold that down, and that will hold the front to the back. Okay? Okay, here we go. I'm going to just start right here. And I know you have to see everything from the side. Now, I will tell you, I put in the pattern, I put how to make little tabs for the top, and you would put those in, and you would attach those. It's the last page of the instructions before you sew the back on or stitch the back on. I've stopped doing that, and so I completely forgot to even show you how to do that, because I buy these little 5-inch clips from Ackfeld Manufacturing, and I use them for all my banners. So if you've got a place in your house where you're going to put a banner like this, and you're going to put seasonal banners, you just buy one clip, and you just keep replacing the different banners and attach them to that same clip. Let's go over here, and we are finished. That thread, you can see at the back, you can see that we've stitched all the way around there. Okay, and I'll look for one of these clips. I've got one of my designs on it. Oh, let me take this off. But this is this is a 5-inch. You can use a 5-inch or a 6-inch. I'd probably use a 6-inch. And these are from Ackfeld, A-C-K-F-E-L-D, Ackfeld Manufacturing. And there you go. You've got your banner. Okay. Okay, so we finished our banner. Here we go. Hello, summer. All of my Bitter Color banners are like this. Some have 3 hoopings, some have 2 hoopings. They all have different border designs, but they're all done exactly the same way. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you for joining me.